through. But you know what? So I did fail, but I gave it a good shot. I did raise some money. I'm not quite sure how much we've raised so far, but it's about £3,000. But we'll hopefully. My goal was to raise £4,444. So how did all this start? It started on the 3rd of July this year. Because on the 3rd of July this year, it was the 20th anniversary of me being released from prison. And to, I guess, commemorate that day, I did an offer on Facebook Live for an event that I do, like half-price tickets. And whilst I was doing this, my train came in at Birmingham Station, so I was doing a Facebook Live. I got onto the carriage, and bearing in mind I was talking about 20 years since prison. I didn't harm anybody, just in case you're wondering what did you go to prison for. And I actually got the urge to give a presentation on this carriage in Birmingham. And I actually said to the people that were watching me, shall I do it? And they went, yes. I went, no. And I bottled it. And I meant to be a motivational speaker, so I was really disappointed throughout the day. So when I got back on the train in Birmingham, a local train to the main station, I did one of those presentations. But I didn't do very well. I failed again. I didn't get a round of applause. But you know what? We learn through these things by giving things a go, don't we? So I got, from the local train, I got the main train from Birmingham to Leeds, and I got on the train. And I stood up, and here I am in first class in Birmingham. And I actually did get a round of applause to that one, and so I was kind of inspired. What I didn't bargain for though was they all want to talk to me then for the 2-hour journey. So anyway, you live and learn, don't you? You didn't get any peace and quiet. So the next day I was in my barber's. I was telling my barber Mike, I said, oh yes, I did this thing on the train yesterday. He said, well, this pop-up presentation, only 5 minutes in length. So he said, well, why don't you do another one here? I went, oh, you're joking. But actually, I took off my cape and I got up, and I know it looks like they're not watching, but he's looking through the mirror there. And I gave a presentation in this barber's. And actually, when I spoke at the Teach First conference this week at the Leeds, well, it wasn't a Leeds arena, it was all around the university, a gentleman walked past me and said, I saw you in the barber's last week. And I forget his name, but the guy said, I was really inspired by that. He was on his way to Wetherby to have fish and chips. But anyway, you never know who you touch, don't you, who you inspire along the way. The next day, I was up in Harehills, where we've just come from now, me and Steve. I was booked by a school to speak in September to the staff. And I noticed this little building next door, like almost porter cabins next door. And I asked what it was at the school. They've just booked me. They said, oh, it's a cafe for the community. You can go in and pay what you can afford or what you feel. So I thought, I'm going to go in. So I went in with my shirt and tie. And this woman said, what are you doing here? I said, come for something to eat. I said, I've just been booked by the school next door. What do you mean, booked? I said, I'm a motivational speaker. She went, sit down, tell me all about it. So I sat down, I told her all about it, and she went, oh, she said, you've inspired my husband. He's a solicitor. I said, was it Black's Solicitors in Leeds? She says, yes, it was. I told her what I'd done over the last 2 days, and she said, do one here then. So I did one there in that cafe, and whilst I was at the TLC cafe in Harehills, where we've just come down from, one of my friends, to be precise, it was a woman called Nikki KO'd, she said, why don't you do 44 in 44 days? She knows that I've got this affinity with the number 44, so I went, no chance. But then after the recording, I said, actually, I'm supposed to be a motivational speaker. Why don't I do 44 in one day? And that's where the idea came from. But as I said, I learned a few lessons, and I didn't quite do the 44. I think we've done 40, but let's tell you, so that's what that came up with. I don't know if that looks like me, but it's not. I have been running around up and down city centre, up and down streets today with some of the people that have been looking after me. Anyway, let's go back. If you are inspired by this today, please use the hashtag 44Talks. And it was on the 44th week of the year in 1975 that I was woken by my sister Sonia. Here she is on the left there. Look at this funky haircut. Look at that. You can tell we had no money. And she shook me awake. She says, Richard, wake up. Mum's not come home, let's go look for her. We left the house at 5:30 in the morning with our coats on over our pyjamas, wandering the streets looking for Mum. We made our way to the local bus stop, not far from the front door, and we sat at this bus stop and waited for each bus. And as each bus came and left without any sign of my mum, we started to get worried. We went home and the police arrived at that house, and they took me and my 3 sisters away to the local children's home. This is Beckett's Park Children's Home. It's now flats actually, but back then it was a children's home. I remember arriving there, quite enjoyed it. The fuss they were making of us, the attention they were giving us, the cups of hot chocolate, that was great. Never had hot chocolate. Being on benefits, we were on the at-risk register. We had 126 visits by the social workers by the time I was 5. I know that because I've got the file at home. Mum and Dad weren't doing a very good job. The police officer crouched down beside us and he said, I'll never forget it. It must have been really difficult for him, but he said, I'm really sorry to tell you, but your mum's been taken to heaven. You're not going to see her again. I was devastated. That's an understatement. I couldn't comprehend life without my mum. Later that day, our photograph was taken. This picture here appeared in the local papers, and that's how some of my mum's family discovered what happened that night, and that is that their sister or our mum that night had been murdered. We later discovered murder by a man called Peter Sutcliffe. Peter Sutcliffe was known as the Yorkshire Ripper. He murdered 13 women. He was a serial killer. My mum was the first of 13 women to die. When people discover that about me, they often say to me, it's not really media, Richard, how did you turn it around? And just so you know, there is a happy ending. I did turn it around. I'm in a good place now. But if I didn't have the few minutes that I have got to tell you how I did turn it around and you wanted a quick answer, I'll give you a quick answer. It's what took place in here. It was my attitude. My I can attitude. You see, I can overcome. That's the biggest graphic we've had today, by the way. Done 44. And I can overcome life's challenges. Mum's death was just the start. But I can find the positives in every challenge I've been through. I can step outside my comfort zone. You see this? I could have dreamt of doing this 12, 15, 20 years ago. I've always had a fear of standing up and speaking in front of people. But I told myself on February 8th, 2005, I finally said to myself, I can overcome this fear. I can. Do you know what I can't understand is why they placed us with my father the following year. My dad left when I was 4, by the way, and they described him in the file as a feckless ogre. They placed us with this feckless ogre, and we paid the price for that. He drowned the dog in the bath, killed the dog. He used to beat us with a stick. He would stab me with a fork as I ran away from him. I was shoplifting. I was off the rails. We all got beaten. All of us got beaten. And here's how it turned out. Jerry McCann, with his arm around me, because I can forgive as well. I think, not you guys in here of course, but if the world could be a bit more forgiving, even in the workplace, the world would be a better place. I forgave in 2007, the 19th of December 2007. I had to break some bad news to my father, saw him crumble. And I'm so glad that I did forgive him because he died 3 years ago. I miss the guy. This is my school photograph. Get the state of that. Look at me clothes. I'm quite cute. Look at that, I look like Prince Harry. My classmates would say to me, is it true about your mum? Is it true your mum was this Yorkshire Ripper's first victim? Is it true your mum was a prostitute? I hated that. I was so embarrassed. They're all better than me. That's what I used to say. Damaged goods. Never going to achieve anything. Or so I thought. In 1982, I said I can for the first time. I can at least try. What I tried was taking part in the public speaking competition at school. I've got low self-esteem, I'm lacking in confidence, but I knew this. I knew if I just could get on the stage, if I just find the courage to get on that stage, it might help with my lack of confidence. And I got on that stage, and I didn't do what everybody else did. I'm so glad you didn't do it either, but of course you're a professional, you wouldn't do that, but some do. I didn't stand at the podium reading my notes like a politician. No. I didn't have any posters, flip charts, diagrams. Do you remember these? OHP projectors. Remember those? No, I had nothing. I walked on stage like this and I spoke about pigeons. My father raced racing pigeons. It was my job to feed them. I knew all about them. I even took a pigeon in with me. I let the pigeon go out the double doors at the side of the hall and off it went. I got this massive round of applause. I told myself I can, but it's not just about I can, because you know you can. It's I can, I will, doing the things, and then saying I did, and I did. Can you imagine how proud I felt the next day in assembly when Mr. Stanley, the new head of school, announced that Richard McCann with his talk on pigeons won first place. I won it. I nearly cried. I didn't cry, but I did change. Or I changed my perception of who I was and what I was capable of doing. It's not a coincidence that I did that aged 12, 13 and 34 years later I'm stood in front of you right now. Sometimes you just got to do the scary stuff. What is it? If it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And I changed. I became more confident. And I did become more confident, but I got to 16, I made a big mistake. Thought I was a big man at 16. Thought I was a grown man at 16 with my little ginger moustache. I walked out of school. I didn't take my exams. I've got no qualifications. I left home and I moved in with my sister Sonia in that one-bedroom flat on the right there, and I got my first job. 16 years of age. I'm ironing trousers in a factory not too far from here actually, just near the gyrator, not far away. I'm ironing trousers. I was then washing plates in a hotel. That hotel is now called the Hilton Hotel in Leeds. I'm washing plates for a job, that was it. I thought I've got to do something about it. I took a leap of faith. I went to London actually, I joined the army. This is me, you can tell it's me with the ginger hair there. And there's the old 44, it gets a mention everywhere, doesn't it? The 44, Mum died on the 44th week of the year. What I didn't say to you, it's a bit deep this, Mum's killer lived the night he killed my mum at 44 Tanton Crescent. That 44 follows me around. Today I did my 2222nd presentation. I think this is about 2230th now, I'll have to count at the end. 2, 2, 2, 2. 2 2s are 4, 2 2s are 4. It follows me around everywhere. I once saw a car in Harrogate, actually. It was 444, MUM. The day that I saw it in Harrogate, my sister saw it in Leeds. She lived at number 4. Anyway, I've lost half the room now, so I'll leave it there. But it's a very strange world that we find ourselves in. No one knew about my past. Told a little white lie, said she died in a car accident, and they accepted that little white lie. Unfortunately, a few months later, this magazine was published, the murder case book. My secret was out, my cover was blown, and I had a bit of a breakdown. I was medically discharged from the army, came back to Leeds, here in Leeds, and I dusted myself down and started again, although I took a detour because, I guess to ease my depression, I started taking drugs. Not just taking drugs, I started dealing drugs, and I got sent to prison, the very same prison that Peter Sutcliffe was sent to when he was first arrested. It wasn't there whilst I was there, and you know what? It was a massive challenge, but you'd be surprised what you can deal with when you're kind of put up against or push through some things, when you get some baggage thrust upon you. People say to me, oh, how have you dealt with that? Do you know what? When these things happen to you, you do deal with it, or you can deal with it. Anyway, I can make like light of it now because I'm not there, but it was, you mentioned bars earlier. There are more people that have not been to prison. They might as well be in prison because they walk around with these imaginary bars that don't exist, these walls that don't exist. Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that, when deep down, if they found that fire in the belly, they could do it. If their life depended on it, they could do it. I walked out of Army prison, and the joy of being released left me 6 weeks later. Wrong, it was 3 months later. I'm back in court. I'm getting my house repossessed. I did manage to buy my house, and I was given 6 weeks to get a job. That's it. Nobody would give me a second chance. Until the 6th and final week, I went for a job interview. September, I think it was, about September 1997. Lawrence Simmons was his name. He gave me a job. That was a turning point in my life. And I started in the warehouse, but I excelled. I was enthusiastic. I got promoted, and I changed my circle of friends. I vowed to do that when I went to prison. I took up salsa dancing. Salsa. I've been asking all day in all my 40-odd talks, does anybody do salsa? And no one said yes. Is there anybody in this room that does salsa? None of you. Just Steve, my friend, with one arm. And I met him at salsa. He's got one arm, and I met him at salsa. How inspirational. You should have heard him speak. I think you have on social media. Anyway, I changed my circle of friends, and one of the last things I did as part of my recovery is I reached out and I got some help, some support with my failed relationships, pushing women away, thinking I wasn't good enough. So don't be afraid to ask for help. And I guess what this is about. This is what this is about. It's about helping one another, isn't it? Exactly. So I got some counselling, and then about 3 months after the counselling ended, my sister Sonia stabbed her boyfriend in self-defence. And when she told me what he'd done to my sister, I'll spare you the detail, but when she told me what he'd done, he didn't die. In fact, he turned up at 12 o'clock at Leeds City Market. I gave a presentation, and he turns up, but he didn't stay for the entire presentation. He walked off. I don't know why he walked off. Well, probably because he was a bit embarrassed about what he did to my sister, but I wouldn't have held it against him because I've moved on. Anyway, I decided to do something about it. I'm going to write a book. I didn't want the public to judge Sonia as just some drunken woman. Oh, lock her up and throw away the key. No, I'm writing that book. No one was interested when I started writing off to publishers, but I kept going, and the book was a huge #1 bestseller. It knocked Robbie Williams off the #1 spot, and it's now sold 55. Actually, it sold 419,000 copies. It's in 11 different languages, in Japan, Croatia, Indonesia, and you know what? It's liberated me. Because up until this book coming out, I was too embarrassed to talk about my past. I pretended it never happened, but I'm being authentic, and this is who I am. It's what I do, and I made some mistakes along the way. I got an invitation to speak on February 8th, 2005. I was petrified, but if it doesn't challenge it, it ain't going to change it. And I accepted my first invitation because I was shy, and I'm so glad that I did, because I speak all around the world. That's me here in Leeds at the Leeds Arena, my biggest audience, 4,000 people. I've spoken in Malaysia, South Africa, Switzerland, Germany, Iran, Durban in South Africa I spoke. Although Iran was a complicated one that I'd rather not have been doing, because the audience were made up of people with cancer. My wife was diagnosed with breast cancer 3.5 years ago. She had to have a double mastectomy and reconstruction. It was a tough call, but she's got a 95% chance of being in 5 years' time. I'll settle for that. It could always be worse. And you know what? We've all lost people through cancer. Anyway, this is probably my 2,230th occasion where I've stood up and shared my story, albeit a condensed and very fast version of it. I teach people presentation skills, and I teach people not to speak quickly, and here I am at 100 miles an hour because it is a condensed version. But anyway, I'm glad this is the final one today, because my legs are throbbing, my throat is swollen, and I've got a big talk to give to Carphone Warehouse tomorrow, which I I'm going to do. Anyway, so that's kind of my journey. It's not the happy ending. Here's the happy ending. I met Helen, my wife-to-be, in 2004. Can you imagine that conversation? She said, Richard, tell me a little bit about yourself. I said, well, what it is. We got married on the 1st of July. That's my mum's old house up on the Isle of Skye. 1st of July was my mum's birthday. It was the closest we could get to have my mum at our wedding. And we didn't invite we saved. A fortune, probably £4,444. Anyway, that was us. Don't ask me how, but look what happened next. Our 3 wonderful ginger children were born. We've got Isle and Skye, Isle of Skye. His name's Ellis. We were married at a place. Sorry, we were married at a place called Elishadder. So that's where Ellis and Isle of Skye get their names from. And I'm going to finish with this little treat, which is my son was asked by his teachers, "What do you want to do when you're older?" They'd all been asked. I didn't even know this. It was on the classroom wall. I said, "Son, he wants to be a motivational speaker." You can imagine how disappointed I was. When he told me that the teaching assistant didn't know what to say, I did. I said, "You can do that if you want, son." Can I finish with this? My little boy speaking. I hope it's going to work. It will work.
My first presentation was in front of 29 people at school in class. Then was 140, followed by 400, and my latest presentation was in front of 1,500 teachers at the Leeds Arena about 6 weeks ago. And each time I stepped outside my comfort zone, got bigger and bigger.
Great shot.
The thoughts of these: never underestimate the potential that lies within each and every one of you. That's you, in fact that's all of you. If I can stand up here, aged 8, in front of 3,000 of you, then I've got a question for you. What can you do? I'm Alice McCann, motivational speaker, aged 8. Thank you very much.
That's my little boy. Check out his website. It's ellismccann.co.uk. You can leave a comment, by the way, ellismccann.co.uk. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong. Oh yeah, there is his website. So it's ellismccann.co.uk. You can't communicate with him as a child, but you can leave a comment, a word of encouragement. He's now writing his own book as well. It's called Yes You Can. It's for kids in primary school. Because he can. He's seen his dad do it, so he thinks he can do it. The danger is when you've not seen somebody do it in your family or your kind of community, you can think that you can't do it when you can actually. There he is. Look at his little face there. He designed the cover. My designer sorted it out for him, just tidied it up a little bit. And ordinarily, that's where I would end. But can I just end with this? It's only 2 minutes. I've got a 6-year-old daughter now who wants to be a motivational speaker. I do storytelling workshops, and here she is at a storytelling workshop. There's only 40 people, but it's 40 people. She's only 6, remember. I don't think she appreciated how difficult it was going to be.
So come to the front there, just on there.
Oh.
Tell them what it's about.
Do you know what? That's not the right video. That is not the right video. Hang on. This is.
The
world's youngest.
But she had a go.
Until recently, the world's youngest motivational speaker is Alice McCann. He was the world's youngest motivational speaker, but now I am the world's youngest motivational speaker.
Yeah, girl power. Look at that hair.
I can stand up here and you can too. Why I did this is for myself a week. I feel scared right now. If you feel scared, just do it.
Just do it. Just do it. As
Kind of motivational speaker, age 6. Thank you very much.
woohoo! There's my little 6-year-old daughter. I'm going to finish that. This is the 30 seconds, then I'm done. That was 40 people. I do a whole day on mindset called I Can Live. Here she is. I won't play the whole thing, but just the last few words so you can see she's done it. It's a bigger room than this, twice the size of this room, maybe even 3.
Motivational speaker, age 6. Thank you very much.
Look at the size of that room.
Brilliant.
6-year-old child. I've got the same jacket on, I just realised. So there you go, that was my, that's my 44 talks. Didn't quite make it, but I don't feel I failed actually because I gave it my best shot, and I will retrieve that, and next time we'll do it 44 talks in 44 hours, and I'll spread it out a little bit. So I'm Richard McCann, motivational speaker, age 47. Thank you very much, I'm not sure what that is, thank you. I'm done.